Hello and welcome to the Sanders Review. My name is Caleb Sanders, and today I have a very interesting video that I want to share and just go through. If you are a member of my channel, I normally review books and stories, and I primarily focus on fantasy, sci-fi, but I'm going to be getting into a little more historical fiction and just discussions on various aspects of literature and ultimately just storytelling, which is what I love. And so first off, if you're interested in any of that, please subscribe. But today I am talking through something that is a little deeper, and it may get me a little emotional at some time. My wife loves to poke at the fact that I am a very empathetic person, and I will cry at Bluey cartoons, which if you're a parent, you know that Bluey hits different. I will just say that. But today I wanted to go into a little bit of a discussion about the importance of storytelling and literature, and a couple of things that really helped me overcome a personal loss that I had it's been 8 years now. It's going to be going on 9 years soon, which feels crazy that it's that soon, but involving the loss of my brother. And my brother's name is Luke Sanders. He would have been 45 this year. His birthday was this last week, and that was what inspired me to want to make this video. And I will be talking through some hard topics today, so it's may not be the most cheerful of things in the holiday season or whenever you're watching this video. If you watch it, could be 5 people watch this, could be 5,000, I don't know. But this is something that is near and dear to my heart that I hope resonates, because I think there is something amazing about conversations about different forms of storytelling and mediums and ways in which we process grief. Even when we think we are over it, we know that grief and just loss, I always describe it as a scar, that sometimes you strain something and you can feel that hurt again. You can feel that loss again. And so a little backstory, my brother Luke, he struggled a lot through his life with anxiety and some depression and stuff. And now we know it was probably a form of bipolar schizophrenia, something like that, that was undiagnosed from a young age. And he just always struggled with certain things throughout his life. And again, as I said, very heavy topics going over today. And what happened almost 8.5 years ago now, he had been going through a series of events just for years, going through depression and some suicide attempts and just different things that took place. And he often struggled to want to get help. There was a stigma at that time, and back in the 2010s, you started to see where people started to push back against the stigma of people going through mental health crises. And unfortunately, my brother, he was one of those victims to that era where he feared what people would think about him if he even admitted that he was struggling with something. He self-medicated with, he had medicine, he had doctors and stuff that he would go to very resistantly, but he would self-medicate with alcohol and just different things. And he would just struggle to try to get help. He would talk to us and it would be like, okay, I'm doing great. And then something would happen. And ultimately, I won't go into the details. I still struggle fully to talk about it. I've been trying to write a book about it. I started, back when 2018, 2019. So everything happened in 2016. About 2018, 2019 is when I started writing a book. Just too much too soon. Started writing again when COVID hit. Got through the prologue, first couple chapters, just stopped. And it's just something that maybe eventually I'll get around to. And what happened was my brother, he'd been going through a couple of rough days and was going to go see a doctor to see if his medicine needed to be adjusted, anything like that. Long story short, he had a mental health crisis, and for all intents and purposes, let's just say there's a huge debate that could be had about it, but there was a perceived threat, and my brother ended up being killed by police officers up in Northern California. And let's just say that it still to this day is just a heavy thing to think about. And it's a hotly debated thing. You can look at the evidence and look at, I've watched the video of what happened. I've seen everything, talked to the police and different, it's a huge debate about, different details and different facts about what happened. But ultimately, he was in a mental health crisis, and you can argue about, one, if he had been able to be willing to get help in a quicker or more easy way. Also, the treatment of the situation, that the officers were not prepared for the situation that we're in. That was a very shocking situation to find themselves in. I write pretty in detail about it in the start of this book that I may someday write. I might try to write it by the 10th anniversary. That might be my thing. By 2026, I might try to have the book written, to have it out as kind of a 10-year memorial for him. But what happened was, going through, and my book is organized in the 5 stages of grief, kind of going through the different stages in my own personal processing of what happened. And ultimately, as a Christian, I found a lot of help in overcoming my grief through my faith, through the scriptures, through people around me. And I know we all have different ways in which we process grief. For me, it was very helpful to have those things around me, because it would have been so challenging otherwise. And it took me a couple years to get over the loss of my brother. And what happened was, I want to talk, the point of today's video, not to belabor the point of what happened to my brother, but to ultimately go in and talk about how the things that we consume, or the things that we enjoy, the things that we can process through, in this case, reading a fantasy series and enjoying music by a Indian folk metal band. I know that seems like a very interesting juxtaposition, but bear with me here. So there was a fantasy series that I read that I had actually been reading before my brother had his untimely situation and end, we'll just say. And I know I've already said words that the YouTube algorithm could strike, and who knows, that could mean that this video never gets seen. Who knows? You never know. But that's a whole conversation of itself. But this fantasy series that I had already actually completed by the time everything happened to my brother, rereading the series after losing my brother really helped me process in a very interesting way. And that book series is Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. If you know Wheel of Time, Robert Jordan is this epic fantasy series. And it was finished by, after Robert Jordan's passing, it was finished by Brandon Sanderson, who's a very famous author as well. And in this book series, it's an amazing epic fantasy that spans, with short stories and everything, it's 14 extra books, 15 books, each one of them being 800 to 1,400 pages long. It's a massive series. But what's incredible about it is, built into the fabric of the story is ultimately conversations that could be had about mental health and struggle and trauma. And if you've read Brandon Sanderson, you know that is what he brings into his books, especially Stormlight Archive, and just trauma and grief and depression and PTSD. And in The Wheel of Time, you have a couple of interesting scenarios. I want to focus on the story of the 3 main characters real quick, which kind of spoilers a little bit, but not really spoilers if you've read it, or if you haven't read it. One main character, his name's Perrin. Let's see, how do I say this without going into super depth? He struggles with his internal nature and the magical nature that is going to be emerging, that struggles to emerge, that he goes into, and he fears giving himself up too much to the thing that he fears within himself. And when I reread this series after my brother's passing, Perrin's story stuck out to me, because ultimately he had to accept this angry side of him. He had to accept this rage that would come out of him, and then ultimately be able to embrace and not fear it, but to be able to understand it and see the power within it. And I'm not saying ultimately anything about myself or my brother, but just this idea that you have to ultimately be able to face your fears a little bit. The second character mentioned, his name is Matt. He goes through and he has his own flaws and fearing to face himself and who he is. In fact, he later on in the series, he gets, let's just say, some interesting powers, some interesting abilities that he initially runs away from, and it ultimately comes down to him embracing his duty, embracing the things that he has fought against to be able to ultimately save the world, and all that. But the primary character to focus on, you've all probably, if you've read the series, you know where I'm going with this, is the main character, Rand. And the magic system in the Wheel of Time is such that there's been in the past, eons in the past, the Dark One, the evil power, Shaitan, standing for Satan, you know, all that. He has touched the magic system, and he has spoiled and corrupted the male half of magic, and called Sidene, and now any man who can channel ultimately will without a doubt go insane at some point and usually try to kill those around them. And what is interesting in this story is how as Rand, as he goes through the story, he fights against, and the prophecy is that the dragon reborn, this reborn mythical being, will be a man who can channel and will go insane having to save the world. Will have to give up himself in order to save the world. And what's amazing about this story is at the end, Robert Jordan and then ultimately Brandon Sanderson, they do an amazing job writing this series. They do an amazing job of bringing about Rand al'Thor accepting what he's going through, accepting the trauma that he's experienced, he fights against his duty, he accepts it, and ultimately he's able to learn how to bend, that finding that bending is strength, right? We often think that you have to be strong to be rigid and immovable, but no, something that they bring up is the fact that when you can learn how to bend, to admit mistakes, to admit you need help, that is when you are ultimately strong. And the series ends, you can read the series itself. It's a long book series, but it's my favorite series of all time. And rereading this book after my brother's passing just really helped me in a way, because you see a character in a series of characters who have to accept their weaknesses, admit their faults, and realize ultimately that they need those around them to be able to fulfill their destiny, fulfill their duty, fulfill their calling. And I wish that my brother had read this series. I have this feeling just in my gut that if my brother had read the series, maybe following these characters, especially Rand al'Thor, as he struggled, and that's one of the reasons I didn't recommend it to my brother, was because of the mental health struggles that he was having. But Rand went through that and overcame it, and just something tells me that he may have gotten some hope from that story. That he may have gotten hope from that story. And that is where the series makes me a little sad now, but at the same time makes me inspired, because I hope that there are people out there who have read The Wheel of Time and it has helped them to overcome. I know people have with Stormlight Archive and other book series. And ultimately this series helped me to process in a way that is beyond. And I was good. I had gone through stages of grief where, you know, it's not easy, but it's good. Right? Things get better with time. But this book series did something amazing to help me to overcome just a little bit more of that loss. And so I would highly recommend you read it. It's a thick series, but if you like reading fantasy, if you like reading big, thick books with amazing character development and world building, Wheel of Time's amazing, and it just has that special place in my heart given this scenario and time. And I'll talk more later about Wheel of Time in some other video. So talking about the Wheel of Time, you can see for me how reading stories is a way of processing and working through and ultimately maybe finding inspiration in and through loss and hard, challenging times. I can point to many times in my life where I've struggled with certain things that reading has really just helped me in a lot of different scenarios and situations with many different series. And another way that you can process that I process is through music. And during everything with my brother, in my book I actually write about it, where I struggled actually with finding music to help me, and ultimately it came to the first time in my life during my brother's loss. I had never up to that point listened really to heavy music, and during the processing of grief with losing my brother, I actually found myself going to heavy rock and metal music. And it was just one of those things that just felt like it resonated with something within me during that time. And later during COVID, I found a band during some of the reactions videos and reaction scene that was going on. And I discovered a band that a bunch of reactors are doing. It's a band called Bloodywood, a play on Bollywood. It's an Indian folk metal band. And this band does some incredible stuff. They are so unique, so talented. They came through Sacramento a few years ago, and I could not see them. I couldn't go to one of the big Aftershock music festivals. I wanted to so bad, and I was not able to. I'm hoping they come to America at some point. Again, at some point I might have to just fly to India and see them. You know. But they speak out about a lot of social issues, political issues, cultural issues. They speak out against heavy things. They have some language in their in their lyrics, so aware of that. The video I'm going to show you here, it doesn't have any of that, but it is a band that speaks out and is not afraid to speak out against political corruption, against domestic abuse, against things like that. And they even have they even have a song and a music video about losing a loved one, in this case a beloved dog, but you could have the stand-in for any beloved person in your life, and it is a film that will make you cry. But I want to show you here a video. I'm going to show you the entirety of the video, and I don't monetize these, so it's not going to get copyright struck. But this whole video speaks about depression, mental illness. I just want you to be able to experience it. This is a band that they sing. They have one artist who will sing in Hindi and has more harsh vocals, and you have another rapper who will sing in English. And so there's subtitles here, and it's just an amazing video, and I just hope you enjoy it and stick around to be able to see my final thoughts at the end. I will link the video in the description because it's an amazing video and has an amazing message from the band at the very end. And I'm going to just show you the video, but if you want to watch the message, which is a really inspiring message, check out the video link in the description. This music video reminds me of my trip to Nepal.
Trapped in the deep bubbles, they chuck that man in with the trouble.
I still cannot listen to that song without being very inspired by it. I really wish that my brother had been able to listen to that. He loved when I showed him new music. One of my favorite bands is a Finnish metal band called Nightwish, and I shared it with him back when I was in college, and he loved it and just was inspired by it. And I feel like if I had shown him this, he would have really dug it and really listened to it. And the message in that, I just love the two lines: live, brave one, win, brave one. We can still get back up if we're still alive. And this band, they've had people write to them and come to their concerts and talk to them about how their music has made such a huge impact in their life. And it's something they've even gotten tattoos of that phrase, Veerey, which is live, brave one. And let me just encourage you, if there is anybody out there who's watching this, I'm obviously a small channel, who knows, maybe there's just one, I don't know, but if there's anybody, if you're struggling with something, please talk to people around you, go get help. Email me. My email, I think, is tagged somewhere on my channel, and I'd love to pray for you. And as a Christian, I do believe in the power of prayer. I've experienced that and felt that, and I know not all people are religious, but there are people out there that you can get help and seek help from. And this band, they do an amazing job of speaking to these things. So, needless to say, I highly recommend Bloodywood. But the band, their songs just really inspired me and just helped me bittersweetly think that my brother could have maybe felt better and gotten more help if he had known about some of these, and ultimately if there had been less stigma around things like mental health. And I think book series like The Wheel of Time and metal bands like Bloodywood, they do something and they create something that people can engage with, and I hope be inspired by and just dedicated to finding help for themselves or for those people around them. And so I know it's a very heavy video today, but it's something that I feel very passionate, that I was very inspired to do recently with my brother's birthday. In fact, I'm wearing today a sweater. My brother always talked about doing sweaters. Let me stand up here, you can see it. He always had he wanted to do a Be Original brand, and he had some sketches that I went off and did and printed and made for my dad and brother and I. And there it's a man, it was the original board original. So guys snowboarding on a tree down a mountain on a, first snowboard. He had all sorts of things he wanted to do, and I just wear it in remembrance to him sometimes, and it's just inspiring. And so I hope you have an amazing day. Yeah, heavy topic, heavy things, but it's inspiring what stories can do and what they can bring out of us and for us. So, hope you have an amazing day. Again, my name is Caleb Sanders. If you're interested in this channel, right up here, here's a video just explaining why I started this channel and the things that I like to talk about and do. And up here is going to be one of my more recent videos. Check it out. Would love to hear from you in the comments. Take care. God bless. Go read a good story. Bye-bye.